We'll begin by focusing on the content criteria for the Technical Specifications and Descriptions Report grading rubric. The descriptions in your report should be objective. In other words, observations based on visual, auditory, tactile or touch, olfactory or smell, and relevant sensory data instead of emotionally driven details. You should fully support your main descriptive points with concrete, research-based, and accurate information. If the product or process involves safety and/or quality standards, those specifications should be outlined clearly and concisely in your report. Aside from representing the product or process accurately, the report should go beyond the obvious in that it should not only focus on commonly understood facts or details. The reader should come away with a newfound understanding of your report subject. The report should include one visual aid. To earn a check plus for the assignment, your visual should have a descriptive caption, in other words, the image title at the minimum. If you have more than one image, the caption should have a figure number reference so that your reader can easily understand which images correspond to different elements of description in your text. The labels in your diagram should have the name of each part with an arrow or line to connect the word with its corresponding element in the visual, or the text with the name of each part should be close enough to that element so that it is clear that the name or word is connected to the corresponding element in the visual. The textbook and example reports all demonstrate effective labeling. The second student example report has labels and captions. The first example report only has labels, so you can compare those reports and see the differences in evaluation. In terms of application, your report should clearly connect secondary research to your points of description and analysis. Rather than including freestanding quotations in the text, create textual links to research claims and support with your own ideas and expertise. You should also include textual signals to show how ideas are connected, using words like, for example, or according to, and then state the author's name or the title of the text. Also, you should credit others' ideas and expertise as you are paraphrasing, quoting, and summarizing secondary research. The report should present information and concepts in a way that helps a general reader understand the full meaning of the product or process. Language use does play a role in this goal, so we'll get into that more once we move to the voice criteria in the rubric. Finally, your report should demonstrate your knowledge and skills in applying the strategies and guidelines for writing effective descriptions and technical specifications as they are defined and described in the course learning materials and activities that I mentioned before. As far as arrangement, you will need to consider the following guidelines. You may remember that instead of a traditional academic-minded thesis statement, you should begin by informing readers of what the document should do. The goal of technical descriptions is to outline and document details systematically to assist readers in forming a mental image of the product or process. The textbook recommends creating and integrating an orienting purpose statement in the introduction, or start with a quick definition of what you will describe in the document. However, you should try to do so without stating something like, "This document will," or "the purpose of the document is." The core organizational sequence for the document depends upon your purpose, so you should decide whether to use a spatial, functional, chronological, or a combination of patterns that suit your subject and document goals. You can find definitions of these sequence patterns in the learning materials for technical descriptions. Moreover, you should connect or separate parts of the document body based on relationships between topics and use smooth transitions to represent the links between those topics. Some examples of transition words include, for example, however, and other transition words based on the sequence that you've chosen to order information in the document. For example, if you're using a spatial description, you might say, moving to the left, we can see, or something to that effect. Finally, your conclusion should be short, crisp, and tie ideas together so that your reader comes away with the impression that they now understand everything pertinent and necessary to comprehend the product or process. As I mentioned in the overview of the application criteria, your language choices should still convey accurate terminology and information about your report subject. However, you should select words that non-experts would understand and avoid jargon that may not be accessible to people outside the field specific to the product or process you are describing. Although you should keep terms for your subject consistent, consider when to use appropriate synonyms for related nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and so on to avoid any kind of repetition. You want to be careful to avoid vague terms like things, stuff, big, small, and similar broad terms. Consider what language is most suitable for a general but also knowledgeable audience. You can address the reader directly and use personal pronouns like you. But first-person pronouns like I will draw unnecessary attention away from your report subject. Indicative verb moods are used most often in these kinds of reports because they communicate factual statements or observations. If you are describing a process or procedure that closely resembles instructions, you can use imperative verb moods for those descriptive elements. However, you should use commands sparingly because they may come across as being overbearing or bossy. Finally, you should employ active voice more often than passive voice. The criteria for mechanics in this report differ slightly from the mechanics criteria for the LEGO Masterpiece Instructions team assignment because you are required to integrate at least 2 secondary sources relevant to your report subject. You should ensure that all quotations, summaries, paraphrases, and images include in-text citations and a references entry in the complete list as the final part of the report. This course assumes that you understand how to quote, summarize, paraphrase, and cite secondary research in the text of your document and create a references or works cited page to document those sources. As far as APA style, the learning materials from week 6 define and provide examples for citing various sources in this documentation format, both in the body of the report and at the end. The research and critical thinking resources on Brightspace offer strategies and tutorials for locating, integrating, and citing research as well as preventing plagiarism. Again, this course assumes that you have a full range of knowledge and skills in these areas. However, I strongly encourage you to contact me directly with any concerns you have about finding research or about plagiarism. If you do not cite any sources in the report, your grade will reflect it. Like the assessment criteria for instructions, you should maintain control over surface-level grammatical errors. The report should adhere well to standard margins, 1 inch all the way around the page, standard font, and the template formatting shown in the textbook. again, you will see that there is one template for process descriptions and another template for product descriptions. Given this is your third writing assignment in the course, you should be aware of how to avoid common mistakes and apply formatting conventions for font alterations, indentations, and other aspects of what is shown in the textbook. Here is a quick breakdown of numerical scoring based on each criterion in the rubric. Whichever percentage you earn for content will be a possible number of points out of 15 points. Application will be worth 10 points. Arrangement will be worth 5 points. And voice will be worth 5 points. You can see that the point values are the same as what you saw for instructions reports. However, since you are integrating and citing research, the point value for mechanics has increased by 5 points. So content and mechanics are equal in terms of point values. The final score will represent your total out of a possible 50 points, which will equate to a percentage or letter grade.